Hello again everyone, Andy here looking at the markets, and I'm currently looking at the dollar index futures and the major currencies. As you can see, we're looking at 4-hour charts and we're looking at week over week activity. What's interesting this week, as you can see here, the dollar on the far left, then you have the yen, the Swiss franc and the Canadian across the top, the euro, the pound, the Australian dollar across the bottom, and of course we're looking at week over week activity. So the important thing here to note is that you're looking at last week and then you're looking at this week, and this is what happened over this previous week. But what I'm looking at here is noticing the dollar index futures traded basically inside of last week's trading range right up until just about right before Thanksgiving in the US, and then started to fall apart here, going below 80.94, which was last week's low, and then pushing down as low as 80.20 or so. Early on in the week we did push down below last week's low, but was not able to hold below that level in the dollar index, going back up to the previous week's closing price and finding some sellers there. As you can see here, found some sellers at last week's closing price, and then ultimately ran throughout the rest of the week back to the downside. So in a sense, you had a bunch of buyers that came into the euro. As you can see, tried to break out of the last week's trading range early on in the week, was met with resistance, or really there was nothing going on, but looked like it was going to break down. Found some buyers there at last week's closing price, and then basically a nice push to the upside, breaking above last week's high 28.01, and then finishing pretty strong right around 29.70 in the euro. And of course the same thing happened here in the pound. A little bit of a consolidation early on in the week. Looked like a little bit of a push down towards the previous week's closing price, and then pushed up above last week's high and then rallied. You can see this nice pushback here, retesting after the breakout and then rallying up to above 160 in the pound. Australian dollar just going sideways, really not able to break out of last week's trading range. You could see basically trading in the upper half of last week's trading range, just chopping, consolidating here until the euro and the pound started to break out. When the euro and the pound broke out, as you can see here, the Australian dollar tested last week's closing price, and that was basically when a lot of the buyers came in the market, basically a risk on type of appetite. And to go along with the sentiment here, you can see the yen, Japanese yen, breaking above last week's trading range. 81.45 was a breakout point, and then pushing all the way up as high as 82.60 or so before pulling back into the back end of the week. But the Swiss franc here also cooperating, or showing us exactly what the dollar was doing, initially trying to break down in the beginning of the week here, not really having any kind of luck or follow through until about Wednesday or so. You can see this push drive back up towards last week's closing price, the same time that the dollar index found resistance at last week's closing price, and basically falling out of bed here in the Swiss franc, breaking down below the 94.02 level and finishing right around 92.79. Very nice push there in the markets. And at the same time, you got the Canadian dollar here down below parity, breaking down below last week's trading range pretty quickly, and then consolidating here, using last week's low as resistance a couple of times, and then ultimately finally collapsing and then finishing right around 99.20 or so. But ultimately, as you can see, this is what I like to illustrate when the dollar index gets going in one direction. As you can see in this particular setting, early on in the week, a little bit of consolidation, not really trying to figure out, or just some indecision, unable to figure out what it wanted to do, and then finally breaking down in the dollar, and then all hands on deck, basically everybody moving in their respective directions. So as you can see, the dollar index breaking down, the euro breaking out, the pound breaking out, and even though the Australian dollar was not able to break out, you can see that it did show strength into the back end of the week here. And at the same time, the Swiss franc broke down when the dollar index broke down as well. And the Canadian dollar here did show a little bit of fight, where it did try to go sideways, but ultimately fell on the dollar weakness as well. The Canadian, or the Japanese yen here, obviously has been a misfit for us, where it typically is not cooperating with what we're seeing in the dollar, and so you know, we have to be on alert as to what we can expect in that currency. But it looks like the Japanese yen wants to push up to 84, and we're going to be looking for the euro here to see if we find strength into next week. Same thing with the pound as we look at the dollar weakness going into the back end of the month. This will be interesting to see if this weakness in the dollar continues, and then we finish on a you know, below the 80 level in the dollar going into the beginning of December. So that's all I got for this market wrap. This is Andy signing off. Hope it helps. Good luck in your trading. Stay safe out there. Best regards to all, and we'll see you in the next market wrap. And if you're interested in our premium video, don't hesitate to check us out. Take care. While I got you here, I wanted to take a quick moment to say that if you really liked what you're looking at here in the free Forex market wrap video, I wanted to give you the opportunity to come take a look at the premium weekly Forex market wrap video that I do every week. And basically it's a little bit more in depth, or should I say a lot more in depth information about the markets that I cover. And you can see here that in this short video I go over the basics about what I've been looking at on the major currencies. In the more in-depth market wrap video, I take a look at a in-depth analysis on the 6 major currency pairs. You also get actionable trading scenarios. The important thing here is that we're offering a 3-day risk-free trial, so you don't have to pay a cent. It's about a 30 to 45 minute video that'll go through all the major currency pairs that I look at, and it shows you a lot more in-depth analysis and forecast, looking at the longer term picture and the big major trends that are affecting what you're looking at on the lower time frames that you're looking at on a day-to-day basis. So take a moment to go take a look at the premium market wrap video. You can see the link here provided, www.traderstouch.com/3day, and it also includes a free membership to the Traders Learning Network, where you can meet other traders that are like-minded individuals, and they're basically there to help everybody looking at the same markets as you. So good luck, hope it helps, and look forward to seeing you on the inside.